You've got to understand something fundamental about life. People will try to take advantage of you, and often they'll do it without even realizing the full extent of it. But more importantly, some people do it deliberately. Narcissists, for instance, they operate on a fundamentally different set of rules. They want to control the narrative, they want to dominate the conversation, and they want to make you feel small in the process. And you, in your desire to maintain harmony and keep things nice, will often allow this to happen. It's not because you're weak, it's because you're trying to be kind and considerate, which is noble, but it's misguided in this context. That's the problem. You're being too nice to someone who doesn't deserve it. When you encounter a narcissist, you need to shift your perspective entirely. Being nice is not the right approach, and here's why. Niceness, in the sense that many people understand it, is nothing more than an attempt to avoid conflict at all costs. It's the mindset that says, I'll do whatever it takes to keep the peace, even if it means sacrificing your own well-being, your own dignity, or your own values. But this strategy is self-destructive when it comes to narcissists, because they will exploit every ounce of that behavior. They'll take advantage of your kindness and twist it into a weakness, using it as leverage to manipulate and control you further. Instead, what you need is strength, moral strength, psychological strength. You need to set boundaries, and you need to do it firmly. Boundaries are not about being cruel or aggressive. No, boundaries are about protecting yourself, maintaining your integrity, and preserving your sense of self. You don't allow people to walk all over you. You don't allow them to dominate the interaction just because they're trying to make themselves feel superior. The world doesn't revolve around them, and it certainly doesn't revolve around your willingness to sacrifice your own peace just to keep theirs intact. So how do you handle a narcissist? First, stop playing their game. Don't get sucked into the endless cycle of trying to please them or appease their fragile ego. It's not about being rude, it's about being direct and assertive. It's about not tolerating disrespect and not letting them manipulate you into emotional submission. If they push you, you don't retreat into politeness or silence. No, you stand your ground, you express your thoughts clearly, and you refuse to be intimidated by their tactics. Moreover, don't fall into the trap of believing their distorted sense of reality. Narcissists often thrive on chaos, on creating confusion, and they will try to drag you into their narrative, one that benefits them and no one else. They'll distort facts, they'll make accusations, they'll twist your words. But you must not engage with that. You must remain calm, clear, headed and grounded in your own truth. You have your own dignity and your own worth. Don't let them take that away from you. In these situations, it's not just about standing up for yourself. It's about standing up for your future, for your potential, and for the kind of life you want to live. Because if you continue to allow narcissists to dictate your behavior, you're not living your life. You're living theirs. It's time to stop being nice in the sense of allowing others to undermine your reality. Be strong, be clear, be assertive, and above all, remember that your peace, your self-respect, and your boundaries are sacred. Never let anyone take that away from you. When we talk about being nice to others, it's often seen as a virtue, a way to create harmony and make the world a better place. However, there's a distinct difference between genuine kindness and the type of niceness that becomes a shield for avoiding conflict, especially when dealing with narcissistic individuals. The issue here is that, in many cases, when you're overly nice to a narcissist, you're not just being kind, you're putting yourself in a position of vulnerability, and that can become your downfall. This is especially true because narcissists are incredibly adept at recognizing and exploiting that vulnerability. The problem with niceness in this context is that it becomes an automatic response to avoid the discomfort of confrontation. It's an attempt to smooth over any potential discord, to make sure that the relationship stays at least outwardly peaceful, even if it means ignoring your own needs, desires, or personal boundaries. Niceness, when overdone, is about suppressing your own sense of self in the service of appeasing others, even if those others, like narcissists, don't have your best interests at heart. Narcissists feed off this type of behavior. They recognize it as an opportunity to assert control and to make sure the dynamic stays in their favor. They will exploit your need to be nice to further their own agenda, which often involves manipulation, gaslighting, and emotional exploitation. When you're overly nice to a narcissist, you're essentially handing over control of the situation. You're saying that your well-being and emotional peace are secondary to keeping the narcissist satisfied or avoiding their negative reactions. Over time, this results in a power imbalance where the narcissist holds all the leverage, and you are left with nothing but resentment and emotional exhaustion. Additionally, being overly nice to a narcissist reinforces their distorted view of the world, where they believe they are entitled to others' attention, time, and energy. Narcissists tend to think of themselves as superior, and when they see that you're consistently yielding to their needs at the expense of your own, it only confirms their sense of entitlement. They come to expect that you'll always accommodate them, that you'll always let them dictate the terms of the relationship, whether that's in social situations, professional settings, or even in personal relationships. Furthermore, the niceness you're displaying often masks what's really going on, your own fears and insecurities. When you're in the presence of a narcissist, you might feel the urge to be nice because you fear conflict or worry about how they will react. You might be afraid that if you assert yourself, they will retaliate with anger, criticism, or manipulation. This fear drives you to act in ways that aren't aligned with who you truly are, which is why being overly nice isn't just ineffective, it's also counterproductive. It doesn't solve the underlying issues and, in fact, deepens them. Instead of building a relationship based on mutual respect and honesty, you're enabling the narcissist to continue their behavior unchecked. On top of that, the more you give in to this behavior, the more you begin to lose touch with your own sense of self-worth. It's a slow process, but it happens all the same. The more you prioritize the narcissist's needs and desires over your own, the more you erode your sense of value. Eventually, you might find yourself in a position where you feel completely depleted, emotionally drained, and incapable of asserting your own needs. In this cycle of self-sacrifice, you lose the ability to recognize what's truly important for you because you've been so focused on what's important for them. True kindness doesn't require self-sacrifice. True kindness doesn't mean constantly putting others first at your own expense. It's about being compassionate while maintaining healthy boundaries and respecting both your needs and the needs of others. In the case of narcissists, however, niceness isn't the answer. It doesn't create a balanced or healthy relationship. It simply perpetuates the power dynamic where they hold the upper hand, and you are left trying to keep up with their demands. And the longer you stay in that dynamic, the more difficult it becomes to break free from it. It's essential to recognize that niceness in these situations isn't a sign of moral virtue. It's a coping mechanism driven by fear or a desire to avoid discomfort. It's an easy path, but it's also one that keeps you stuck. The challenge then is to shift your approach to relationships with narcissists from niceness to assertiveness, from avoidance to healthy confrontation. By refusing to be nice in the traditional sense, you reclaim control over your interactions, and more importantly, you reclaim control over your life. When it comes to dealing with narcissists, one of the most crucial steps you can take to protect your well-being is to establish and maintain firm boundaries. This is not just about setting limits for the sake of setting limits. It's about recognizing your inherent worth, understanding what you need to thrive, and ensuring that others cannot take advantage of you. Boundaries are essential because they act as the psychological and emotional barriers that prevent narcissists from crossing into your personal space, both physically and mentally. When you fail to set and enforce boundaries, you inadvertently allow the narcissist to dominate your interactions, manipulate your emotions, and distort your reality. Setting boundaries with narcissists requires strength, clarity, and consistency. It's not enough to say once that you won't tolerate their behavior. You must remain firm even when they push back or try to violate your limits. Narcissists are experts at testing boundaries, constantly probing for weaknesses in your resolve, and attempting to make you question your right to assert yourself. They may use tactics like guilt, tripping, emotional manipulation, or passive-aggressive behavior to make you feel responsible for their feelings or actions. This is why your boundaries must be clear and unwavering. When you give an inch, they will take a mile. Boundaries are not about being harsh or rude, nor are they about being defensive. Instead, they're about self-respect and protecting your peace of mind. A boundary is simply a declaration of what you are willing to accept and what you are not. For example, if a narcissist repeatedly interrupts you during conversations, a clear boundary might be stating, "I expect to be listened to when I speak. If you interrupt me again, I will end the conversation." It's a simple, direct statement that communicates your needs without apology or justification. And importantly, once you set the boundary, you must follow through with the consequences if they are violated. Without that consistency, your boundaries lose their power. Narcissists thrive on chaos and ambiguity, which is why your boundaries need to be unambiguous. They will often attempt to twist situations to make you doubt yourself. So having clear, consistent boundaries helps you stay grounded in your sense of self. The more you allow them to overstep, the more they will erode your confidence and self-worth. On the other hand, when you assert yourself with confidence and consistency, you maintain control over your own emotional state and don't give them the power to dictate your feelings. The importance of emotional boundaries cannot be overstated. Narcissists are often emotionally exhausting because they drain you with their constant demands for attention, validation, and reassurance. They expect you to be emotionally available to them at all times while offering nothing in return. Without emotional boundaries, you'll find yourself constantly accommodating their needs, often at the cost of your own emotional health. It becomes an unbalanced relationship where your emotions are put on the back burner and their needs take precedence. Setting emotional boundaries means recognizing that it's not your job to manage their feelings, and it's certainly not your responsibility to cater to their emotional whims. Moreover, setting boundaries is an act of self-care. It's an acknowledgement that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable. When you let a narcissist dictate the terms of your relationship, you risk losing sight of what is truly important to you. You might find yourself neglecting your own goals, values, and interests just to appease their egos. This is not sustainable. Over time, you'll burn out, and the resentment you feel will erode any semblance of a healthy connection. Establishing boundaries is a way of taking back ownership of your life, reminding both yourself and others that you are worthy of respect and consideration. One of the biggest challenges in setting boundaries with narcissists is their tendency to resist or outright reject the idea that anyone could say no to them. This is where the firmness of your boundaries comes in. Narcissists are often accustomed to getting what they want, and they may respond to your attempts to assert yourself with anger, manipulation, or guilt. This is a crucial moment where you need to stay strong. If you buckle under the pressure or feel guilty for upholding your boundaries, you'll find yourself right back in the cycle of manipulation. It's essential to remain calm, assertive, and unwavering. You are not responsible for their reactions. They may try to make you feel as if you're being unreasonable, but the truth is, you're simply protecting your emotional and psychological well-being. Boundaries also extend beyond interactions with the narcissist. They're a vital part of maintaining healthy relationships in general. By consistently enforcing boundaries, you send a message to everyone around you that you value yourself and your time. You model the behavior you expect from others, and you create an environment where mutual respect can flourish. Setting boundaries doesn't isolate you or make you cold. Rather, it attracts people who value you for who you are and who respect your needs. In contrast, not setting boundaries leaves you open to toxic relationships where your needs are ignored and your sense of self-worth is diminished. The process of setting boundaries may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you've spent a long time avoiding confrontation or sacrificing your own needs for the sake of others. But it's a necessary skill, one that empowers you to take control of your life and protect your mental and emotional health. When you establish and maintain clear boundaries with narcissists, you reclaim your autonomy. You stop living for their approval and start living for yourself. And in doing so, you allow yourself the freedom to build relationships that are genuinely fulfilling, where your needs are met with the same respect and consideration that you offer others. When dealing with narcissists, one of the most important steps you can take to safeguard your mental and emotional well-being is to avoid playing their game. Narcissists thrive on manipulation, distortion, and control, and they will go to great lengths to pull you into their twisted version of reality. This game is not one that you want to play because the rules are rigged against you from the start. The more you engage with their tactics, the more you risk losing your sense of self, your peace, and your ability to think clearly. Instead of trying to win or succeed in their game, the key is to disengage from it altogether. The narcissist's game often involves manipulation, lies, and a relentless push for control. They will attempt to make you feel as if everything is your fault, even when it clearly isn't. They may twist your words, accuse you of things you didn't do, or distort your intentions to suit their narrative. If you fall into the trap of trying to justify yourself or defend your actions, you'll quickly find yourself ensnared in their web. It becomes an exhausting cycle where you're constantly trying to prove your worth, clarify misunderstandings, or get them to understand your point of view. However, this is exactly what they want. By drawing you into these circular conversations, they take the focus off themselves and place it squarely on you. The longer you engage, the more power they gain. Instead of trying to defend yourself, it's crucial to recognize that narcissists are not interested in genuine dialogue. They're interested in winning. Winning doesn't mean understanding or resolving conflict in a healthy way. It means maintaining their illusion of superiority and control. They may never admit when they're wrong, and they will rarely, if ever, take responsibility for their actions. Any attempt to engage them in honest, constructive conversations is likely to end in frustration and emotional turmoil. This is why the best strategy is not to engage in their game of manipulation and conflict. One of the most common ways narcissists attempt to draw you into their game is through gaslighting. Gaslighting is a psychological tactic in which the narcissist makes you question your reality, your memory, or your perception of events. They will make you doubt yourself to the point where you're no longer sure of what's true or false. If you find yourself in a situation where a narcissist is using gaslighting against you, the best response is to refuse to play along. Trust your own experiences and perceptions and don't get caught up in their distortions. If they try to rewrite history or accuse you of things you didn't do, don't get defensive. Instead, calmly assert your truth and refuse to allow them to shift the narrative. By doing this, you deny them the power they seek to control and manipulate you. Another way narcissists manipulate situations is by using guilt and shame to manipulate your actions. They will try to make you feel responsible for their emotions, needs, or circumstances, even when they have no right to do so. If they don't get what they want, they might resort to sulking, anger, or playing the victim. If you fall into the trap of feeling responsible for their happiness or well-being, you're simply feeding into their game. Narcissists thrive on emotional reactions, and they will do anything to get them. The more you try to fix their problems or accommodate their demands, the more you enable their behavior. Instead of falling into this cycle, it's essential to stay emotionally neutral and refuse to let their emotional manipulations dictate your actions. You are not responsible for their feelings, and you don't need to feel guilty for setting limits or standing firm in your boundaries. The key to avoiding the narcissist's game is to maintain emotional detachment. This doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent, but rather, it means protecting yourself from getting swept up in their emotional chaos. Narcissists often try to pull you into their drama, whether it's through anger, guilt, or constant conflict. The more you resist the temptation to engage with their emotional turbulence, the more you protect your own peace of mind. It's essential to recognize that the narcissist's behavior is not a reflection of your worth or character. Their tactics are a reflection of their need for control, and they will stop at nothing to manipulate others into giving them the validation they crave. The more you resist their attempts to draw you into their emotional world, the more you empower yourself to stay grounded in your own reality. A critical part of avoiding their game is recognizing when the conversation is not productive. Narcissists will often try to create conflict for the sake of creating conflict. They will push your buttons, make accusations, or attempt to start an argument just to provoke a reaction. If you engage with them, you're simply giving them the attention and emotional energy they're seeking. The best course of action in these situations is to disengage. If they start to escalate, remain calm and collected. Don't raise your voice or respond with anger, because that's exactly what they want. Instead, you can choose to walk away, change the subject, or simply state that you're not willing to participate in the conflict. When you refuse to engage in their manipulation, you take back control over the interaction. Ultimately, the goal is not to win in the narcissist's game, because their rules are designed to ensure that you always lose. The goal is to disengage from the game altogether, stop trying to please them, stop defending yourself, and stop allowing them to manipulate you into emotional chaos. By refusing to engage with their tactics, you regain control over your emotional state and refuse to be a pawn in their power struggle. This requires a commitment to your own well-being and a determination to protect your peace. The more you disengage from the narcissist's game, the more you free yourself from their control, and the more space you create for healthy, balanced relationships where mutual respect and understanding are at the core. When dealing with narcissists, one of the most vital skills you can develop is staying grounded in your own truth. Narcissists, by their very nature, try to create a distorted reality that serves their needs. They manipulate situations, twist facts, and create confusion to maintain control over others. If you let yourself become entangled in their web of lies and gaslighting, you'll begin to lose your sense of clarity and self-awareness. It's crucial to recognize that your perception of reality is valid and that you must hold fast to it, no matter how hard they push you to doubt yourself. Narcissists thrive on creating confusion and chaos. They often twist words, misrepresent facts, and make false accusations to undermine your confidence and make you second-guess your own judgment. This tactic is a core part of their manipulation. They want you to doubt your memories, your experiences, and your ability to think clearly. This is where staying grounded in your truth becomes not just important but necessary. The more you trust in your own experiences and perceptions, the less power they have to control you. One of the primary ways a narcissist will try to destabilize your sense of reality is through gaslighting. This is a form of psychological manipulation in which they deny things that you know are true, distort events, and try to make you feel crazy for